as you turn around that corner, you see black lines into the wall. There are many people that lose grip there and slide off into the wall and smack it. And I've seen people break arms and do all kinds of heinous things going into the tech barrier there.
Do we need like an introduction to the Matt and Barry show or not?
If you want to provide one.
Welcome to the Matt and Barry show, where Barry does all the work and I just sit here and give him a hard time.
Yes,
Yeah, well,
that does look good.
I still think that it's pretty indicative and true of the one time you said that Matt just wants to show up with the keys on the front seat. It doesn't, and he'll drive anything if the keys are on the front seat. And that, I still feel like that's true in a lot of ways, but I'm learning to become.
Yeah, Matt was the arrive and drive guy.
Yeah, I'm learning to become the Barry. Can I ask a couple of questions about what goes into this report card? Because what I have found is you're trying to close the gap as much as possible in every way possible, because we can both agree, just like there's aliens in the sky, that I'm the faster driver. Can we agree there?
On the simulator, yes.
What about real life driving have you thought you've taken away? Oh yeah, I'm faster than he is. When we've had the same car, I'm faster. This data is made up. One is it has your second day. It has a full second weekend on it. It has a full second weekend with 305s. My guess is my lap times that you're using here is with the 200 dot tire, whatever treadwear tires.
No, this is what we've done.
I doubt I'm on Hoosiers, and I've never owned a set of 305 rears. Yours is from 305. So we're not even comparing apples to apples. So before we can already get going on this, it's already fake news. Can we agree there?
Oh, let's set the stage here. So okay. The data for you and Cameron is from a weekend where the air temperatures were probably in the high 70s, and we were still experimenting with the setup. And you were both running 295s on the back and 265s or 245s on the front. I had 2 weekends, and you had 2 weekends. There were 2 different weekends, but we each had 2 weekends. And then Cameron got the shortest end of the stick, because he was running with the worst setup. Well, he was running on a good day, air temperature wise. He was running in the 70s.
And pretty fresh tires, pretty fresh Hoosiers at that point, by the way.
He was running on Hoosiers, and those were 265 in the front and 295
in the rear. Yes.
Yeah. So we hadn't stepped up the rear yet. So he was overgripped in the front, and the setup wasn't very good. And there are times that you will see that he broke loose, and I can point some of those out in the data.
Cameron Lawrence, I don't know who he drives for now, but he is a professional race car driver. He does it as a day job.
And he's one of the fastest people I've seen out there
at COTA.
Yeah, I've not been around anyone that's faster than him.
So he's a good benchmark. Like if
he's a great benchmark.
If we could get anywhere within something close to him, that would be acceptable.
Or at least mimic his style, possibly, right? I'm not going to ever catch him, but if I can mimic his style and learn from his style, that's what I want to do.
Think about how amazing that is, that him fresh in a new car that he doesn't know, with a setup he doesn't know. I bet you he did a combination of maybe 5 laps.
Yeah.
And
to
find the one,
mostly.
Yes. And to find one clean lap and still be able to do a sub 220 lap.
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes to show, I mean, obviously the car is capable, but this is clearly driver related. Like that's pretty, I don't know. I'm just impressed by that there's true pros out there that can go out there and lay down a fast lap when they need to, type thing. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's why he's a pro.
Turns out. So that's why he's doing it and getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
And you and I are just sitting around in simulators talking about it.
The cards are stacked against him because we're taking 1 lap from him, and then we're comparing it to a fused version, which we call the optimal version of both you and I. So it's taking, across all of the laps that we did over the 2 weekends, it's taking the best sectors from each of those and saying, if we were to get all of our fastest sectors together, what kind of a lap time could we do? And so what we're doing is showing our optimal. That's why up here yours is the optimal. And then this is Cameron's best. So he's only got 1 shot at it.
Right.
So that's, once again, we're stacking the cards in our favor on this. And you can see he's still crushing this, right? The blue is Cameron and the white is you. So you can see Cameron being faster on each of these sectors, right? The next one is acceleration. So this is where you can see whether he's on the accelerator above the dotted line or on the brakes below the dotted line. So he's either being pushed back in the seat or he's going forward, and that's the acceleration there. The cornering is left and right G loads. And so a right-hand turn is the upper part of the graph, and the lower part of the graph is the left-hand turn. So you can see here he's pulling more G's than you. There's an example there, right? And then this is the cumulative loss over the entire lap. And so Cameron is this is the base, which is you, and this is Cameron eating time away from your lap. So he's increasing he's decreasing his lap time, so that's why it's below the white line. And so you can see he's pretty much eating against you the whole time. Right?
No, that's not. Well, what about about 2/3 way over? Because yes, that little sector there.
Yeah.
If you restruck a baseline there, meaning once we get down to that flat sector and we've lost all of our time, there's actually a moment there where there is some time gained back, which is heartening.
Right.
But I think a lot of that has to do with he totally blew turn 12, I think it was. And so he gave up some of that time. And my guess is if we correlated that to corners, that's probably where he gave up his time in relation to what we were trying to do. Because my guess is he's consistently faster.
He overcooked the braking zone at 12, and he had to correct and get back on the line. And so that's what happened there. So when the thing dipped down like that, that's him blowing past you in the braking zone.
Yeah.
So he gets an advantage, right? Because he didn't brake at the right point.
Right. So he picks up time and then gives it right back.
And then he has to brake to a complete stop almost, and then turn, and then he gives all the time back. If we go through these and look at where you can gain, where you could improve the most, looking at his data. If we go out to turn 2, so as you come down out of turn 1 and you slide down through this is a real pucker corner. I've seen, as you turn around that corner, you see black lines into the wall. There are many people that lose grip there and slide off into the wall and smack it. And I've seen people break arms and do all kinds of heinous things going into the tech barrier there. This is downhill, and you can see black rubber marks going straight across here into the tech barrier every time I'm out there. And that's always very unsettling as you're trying to figure out where the grip is and everything. And I've seen a guy in one of those AMG SUVs.
I remember that.
Remember that? He took it into the wall. The instructor put his arm up like this, and the airbag went off, and it blew it across his face and broke his arm right across his face. And they had to take him off to the hospital. And it took it was over an hour for them to fix the tech barrier when that happened. So that's a corner it's a hard one to get enough balls to put your foot to the floor and really find the grip. And Cameron obviously can do that. So you can see as you're coming out of turn 1 here and you're accelerating, Cameron is on the accelerator all the way through that compared to you. You're underneath him the whole way. So he's got his foot down and he's accelerating. And because of that, he gets a speed bump on you right there.
You can do that in the sim. In the sim, if I'm sitting here and I'm
harder.
Yes, and I can put my foot down there and not come off throttle all the way of an intro into turn 4, where you brake hard, pretty hard, before you try to get the S's done.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. That's this bump right here. But yeah, there is more grip there, and he was on better tires, I believe. Well, this is a fusion of all the sectors, so it could be.
We don't really know.
Sure. Yeah, it could be what we're comparing to is you on R7s as well. And then you can see he's pulling more G's through that area as well. So there is more being left on the table there. You can see here he corrected though. So as he came into 3, he had a little bit of a blip where he counter steered. And so he did lose grip eventually when he came through, and he was able to correct for that and recover. So that's one area. That's turn 2. Now we get to the front of turn 3. This is kind of what you're talking about. So now as we come into turn 3, you come off of the gas and you're kind of scrubbing the brakes to settle the car.
Yes,
And so
because I'm scared.
so all the way through turn 3, you're scrubbing, and he's still on the accelerator. He's still on the accelerator at the same rate that he was through like turn 2.
Wow.
So he let off a little bit here, right in this dip, and then he got back on the accelerator and he held it all the way through 3. And you can see this big speed bump that he picked up all the way through there. And that's the biggest difference. I know that style, it's a different style of driving than what I do. I settled the car into 3, and then I kind of do maintenance throttle through most of this. And he is on the gas all the way through 3.
Brakes hard.
Hammers the brakes on 4.
1.53 Gs, right?
You're scrubbing the brakes. You're scrubbing the brakes through 3, and then when you get to 4, you then come on the brakes harder to get rid of your speed. And you can see the speed coming down right here. And then you go on to kind of both of you kind of have this more of a on-off throttle kind of thing going on here. And you can see he's got like a double throttle blip here. And you have this is more what I do too, a gaining of the throttle, and then you got to the same level as him, and then you come back down into the brakes. But he's more aggressive with the throttle inputs through the S's than what I do. I typically on maintenance throttle through most of that. But that's a big difference here. And I know you've been trying to do that on the simulator. You've been trying to carry your speed through 3. And this right here, carry the speed through 3 and then scrub it off at 4. And so you're probably putting in a hard brake input at 4, and then going into 5 and get back on the throttle as you go through the apex of 5.
Sure.
So I've got to try that. I tried it once on the track, and I didn't like it at all. It didn't feel natural at all. Yeah.
I think we have to just learn that a little bit with our cars, that there are some quirks there that it's like you have to commit to it. Otherwise, you're fucked.
Yeah. Well, you hope that you have muscle memory such that your brain doesn't intervene and your body just does the right thing without having to think about it. And that's what the simulator helps with. Anyway, so that's the first thing that's the first 2 is turn 2.
That's the first 2 sectors essentially.
That you could gain.
And sector 3 is really short. Sector 3 is essentially just turn 10, and kind of the jump into 11. So I do want to talk about turn 11. I've been tinkering a little bit with the braking zone on turn 11 on where. What's hard about that corner is it's fast, and it's so important to be able to get your carry speed through 11 and maintain that up. But I found a late apex there where I brake for a little bit longer on the far right side, and then when I make that corner, I'm actually waiting for the corner to basically pass the B pillar or the A pillar or whatever pillar it is, the A pillar, and then make that turn in a little bit later. And I've noticed that that's brought my times down.
Yeah.
But again, it's a timing thing that's hard to get right.
Let me show you that. Because that was the big thing that I was going through in my head, was I was trying to understand if I late apex everything. And so I was trying to understand if I late apexed, if that would help. I figured it would help me, but I thought I was seeing in the data against camera that it was hurting me. But I still, after looking at it again last night, I'm convinced that the late apex helps.
In 11. Okay, so let's look at that.
In turn 11. So what we're looking at here is you versus me in turn 11. I am white. And so this is very white, and you are the blue, and you are early apexing it. So you can see that we both brake at the same time. But this is another thing that was bothering me, is I come off with a brake like this. I need to sharpen my brake execution, and I think part of this is because you're left foot braking. So you can create this sharp turn right here where I can't. I have to move my foot off of the gas.
Why don't you left foot brake?
That's just because I drive mostly cars with clutches. It just is difficult to do that. This car, I could do that. And maybe I'm in the rally cars, I was driving with left foot braking because they forced us to, right? But you can see some of the advantages of it with these sharp braking points, and you'll see that on turn 12 as well. You and Cameron, I think Cameron's left foot braking as well, because he can turn this sharp input right here, or impulse, where I come off more like this. And I'll show you another one where it rolls off. But anyway, so you're braking hard here, and you can see I'm kind of trail braking off, and my apex, here's the turn. You're doing an early apex, and I'm doing a late apex. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I get this extra speed going into the turn because I can go deeper into the turn.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, I bank all of this time. Okay. So I come in and I have the extra speed. I bank a bunch of time against you. And then I give up some of it because now you're back on the gas earlier right here.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you put more speed into it here. So if you look at these two curves, the white, if you shifted the white curve to the left, they would be on top of each other, right? But they're just at different times.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the two, there's multiple examples of this where I was able to bank time against you, braking later and deeper. And then when we came out of the turn, I was able to hold most of the time I got off of that technique. And so I'm still convinced that late apexing is the right way to go on many of these
11
turns.
or on many of the turns.
Many of the turns.
What about 12? Yeah. How does it translate towards the back straight?
So this is ahead of 12. And so you've got more speed going into 12. And I think that's because of the air temperature difference. And then you can see this right here is your brake pulse, and you have a real sharp turn there. You can see how I kind of roll off as I move my foot, and then I brake, and I'm getting closer to the amount of power you're putting into the brakes here. I used to be at more of a shallow line like this, and now I'm getting closer to what you're doing. And then we have about the same amount of brake force across that. But you can see I am once again late apexing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put a bunch of time on you right there. You can see the speed that I'm carrying into the turn. And then you have the advantage from this point forward. And now you're putting time into the bank. And that's this drop. But the net is right there. Right?
The net is still, you've picked up time.
Yeah. So the net is that the late apex is still better. And so I'm convinced. At first, I was thinking maybe I should be doing the optimal line. And that's what Cameron does, is he turns an optimal line. He doesn't late apex, but he has the precision to make that optimal line work for him. And he actually has a higher exit speed. He turns in earlier and he has a higher exit speed, but that's very hard to do. And if you read about late apexing, it's a way to ensure that you don't lose it on that back corner.
It's kind of a safety measure, right? Because
yes.
In theory, it gives you just a little bit more time to brake, and then even late apexing makes the exit so that you don't get out of sorts and end up on the rumbles and kind of out. It makes logical sense. I can get behind that.
And another thing they say is it extends the back straight.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what I always thought, is that would be, but you can, I don't know.
Where are you braking at? Are you braking at 150 or where inside 150?
I was trying to brake at 150. I was braking at the same point that Cameron was braking at. So I'm okay with that. And then if you look at the overall, because he blew that turn, here's Barry versus Cameron. So he's eating time against me like he was against you. But then because I late apex that thing, I was able to really capitalize on that mistake that he made. And was able to get almost back. And then by the time I got out of 15, I was actually back at parity with him. And then when we went through the carousel and turned 19, he ate into me again. But that was just because of one mistake that he made. And I think the difference between late apexing and not, because you can see, look at the extra speed that he has on the back straight compared to me.
Yeah.
I think that's because of the temperature difference. And then you can see it here on 10 too. Look at the extra speed that he's got on me. And then here's that blip that we just talked about at 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So he's got, and he's inputting throttle on all of these through the S's, and he's getting time on me through all of those. Most of those, you can see I'm getting some time against him, but then he ends up chewing back into me again. Yeah. So this is another one here where in the stadium section, that's a low speed section. It doesn't take much balls to get that correct, and we do really well against Cameron in that area. If you get the line right, there's not a lot of risk of totaling the car in that section.
I have spun there. I've seen Sebastian Vettel spin there too. Like there
yeah,
is.
but it's a low speed thing, so you're not going to get hurt bad. You're not going to damage the car bad there. The carousel, on the other hand, if you screw up, and you've had an experience with that where you went off of the wall at the carousel.
Just one time.
So, one time, yeah. So that one is
there.
You will do a lot of damage if you lose the car in the carousel. And so if you look at what's going on here, leading into 16, this is coming out of that straight there. You guys are both on the gas, and you're on the gas the same amount. This is 15 here. So you're on the gas the same amount coming into 16, which is the first turn in the carousel. You can see us right here. We're coming around. And so you're on the gas the same amount, then you get off the gas and you actually get onto the brake as you enter into the carousel. Cameron, on the other hand, stays on the gas. And then he comes off of the gas here. And actually, that's when you start getting on the gas. So now he's kind of on maintenance throttle through here. And then as he comes around the midpoint, he gets on the throttle real aggressively on that second half. And you're kind of on maintenance throttle through all of this. Because of that big input there into 16, he gets a big speed advantage right there. By the midpoint of the carousel, you're at the same speed. And then as he exits, because of this big throttle input here on this back half of it, he gains a whole bunch more speed going into 19. And that's where he's getting time. He's not getting a ton of time, but he's getting time through that area.
What happens at 19? Because I would like to see, I do run kind of a unique line there, but it didn't gain me anything, apparently.
Here's 19. So here we are coming into 19, right? And so he has more speed coming into 19 because he had that big throttle input. And then when you get up to 19, you guys are about the same acceleration level. He still has more speed. And then Cameron brakes earlier. So this is, once again, he's doing that perfect geometric line. So he's turning into 19 really early. That's something I need to work on. That's why some people said I lost it in 19 and went into the wall, is because I entered it too late. And so you can see he's entering it real early, and he's exiting it real early, where you come into it later. And you can see the braking is about the same between you two. And then the G loads, he has a lot more G's at the beginning of 19, where you come in and you have some G's, and then you kind of turn off of it. So you steered out of it a little bit and then came back into it more aggressively. And by this point, you're actually, which is close to it's the apex, you have similar G's. But he's eating time all the way through that.
Yeah.
And then you can see here, here's the apex, right, of 19. And you can see he has more speed at the apex. And he's carrying that speed out of 19. So I think I need to find that perfect geometric line on 19 where you turn in earlier and arc through. And I noticed if you look at the video of him, he's straddling the sausage there. Yeah, on 19. And I was concerned, like on my Cayman R, I do that because I know it's high enough. But with the GT4 RS, I was worried that with all those under vanes underneath it, I was worried that they would clip the turtle and break off, and then I'd be writing a big check. So I was trying to put my tires on the edge of that sausage as I went around, but not straddle it, where he was actually straddling it in the video. And that might be why he's able to keep that perfect geometric line and come in, turn in earlier, and then whereas the corner, so he's effectively apexing a little bit earlier. So he was actually, if you look at it, he was on throttle before the apex. So he'd already committed to it, and I guess that's
and you can feel that 19 when you get into 19. One is 19's a little bit hard to see because I do straddle the line, right? So I straddle that little turtle thing. But once you get the car shifted over there, you're basically hammering it in a straight line, and then it's just kind of the amount of understeer that the car has as it hits this giant push draw heading into turn 20, right? Because if you watch the Formula One guys, that's why that's one of the areas that they had to kind of rein in of going 4 tires off, because the people were running this Indy sprint line that was they were hitting the apex of 19, but they were basically going flat out, and then right before 20 and the dirt and the grass, they were zipping back over to get back in line. So obviously there's time there in doing it that way, but of course we can't necessarily do that. And I found that in the sim is if I if I get real wide there, it doesn't hurt me anything.
And Cameron, if you look at his line, he did that. He went way wide. Yeah, and then came back on.
Yeah.
He didn't put all 4 on.
What's your target with this car? Sub 220? You think you can do it?
I would definitely want to get sub 220. I bet you Cameron could get down to the 216 kind of range with the right setup.
I've heard that.
He lost, if you go back to that picture there again, he lost a ton of time right here. And if he wouldn't have taken that out, he would have continued eating into me. And he would have been in the 216 kind of range, I think.
You think that cost him that many seconds? Couple seconds?
Yeah, that was a big, and yeah, he mentioned it, that he totally overcooked that. You can see it in the video. That's his mistake right there, is where he came in, he counter steered, and then he turned again.
Interesting.
And so anywhere where you see those zigzags in this plot, or where we lost the tail, you can see him losing the tail right there, and then there's me losing the tail in that same section. And I did a little bit of a counter steer right there, but not anywhere like what he did.
All right. Well, till next time, after one more lap, but this is a lap with Matt and Barry compared to Cameron. I don't know. I think the evidence is still pretty clear that Barry will never be faster than me. And we might as well just put a pin in that. Should we start to have like some ongoing bets, like the slower person pays for the other person's tires? Would you feel confident?
No.
Why? Why? If you don't feel there's not a certain belief set that you think that you'll be fine?
The tires are they're probably the most expensive thing I've got right now.
Can you imagine me paying for them? That would be amazing for you.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd probably buy me some cheap Walmart tires or something.
No. It would be used. Yeah, there would be any used racing tire that has previously been patched. That's what I'll get you.
I'll pass on those.
All right. Well, thanks for putting that together, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Adios. Bye.